can identify some blocks and avoid them automatically. So sitting behind me is a professor from the College of Computer Science from Jilin University, Mr. Wang. So why don't you say hello to our viewers? So Professor Wang, so this competition is held in Changchun of Jilin, and can you introduce what are the highlights of this competition? So the most important point that you need to know is that this is a competition held on the ice and snow. And for autonomous driving, of course, it's high speed. And bear in mind, we are driving on ice and snow. So this is the major highlight of this competition. For autonomous driving, we have three basic scenarios. Today's scenario is ice and snow, and on the road covered by ice and snow, we have 18 different scenarios. For example, snow weather, and there is also low temperature, and also the car has to avoid those operational vehicles. And so when you are driving as a autonomous vehicle, you have to avoid those operational vehicles that are clearing the snow. All right, so now we're going to go to the side. Later, you may come up with more introductions. So this is quite different from the traditional competitions. Exactly. So when we are putting a competition like this, what standards do we have to assess the performance? So if you look at the traditional competitions of vehicles, they mainly look at the speed. And there might be some obstacles and blocks on the road, and basically we look at the skills and experience of the drivers. But today, the competition has no human drivers. It's autonomous driving, and we're going to look at whether the car is able to comply with traffic regulations. And then we will have to look at whether the car is able to recognize some of the traffic signs, understand some of the traffic limitations, and under this framework, can the car still accomplish the task, avoid some of the blocks, and eventually reach the destination. So to compete and even equalize the skills of human beings, the car has to reach some parameters. So why don't you talk a little bit about the different grades of L levels? So we have L1 to 5, and this is a grading system based on the technical roadmap. If you look at the products, there are two different categories. We are mainly looking at L1 and L2, and if you talk about the autonomous driving system, that will be above L3. And so we will be mainly focusing on L3 and L4, but L5 is the peak level, and it's most challenging. So you're telling me that today's cars are all very smart? Yes, and I'm only talking about performance and functions, but I believe there's still a gap. So why don't you introduce some of the contestants? How many contestants we have? So we have 31 teams which will participate in a challenge on the road, and for tomorrow it's off-road. We're going to have 13 teams altogether. We have 31 autonomous driving cars. We have cars that are from the enterprises, and we also have cars that are from some of the startups, from some of the universities and research institutions. So you mentioned One University, Jiangsu Transportation University. So I understand that there are 2 days for this competition, and I believe today's competition will be the most worthy to watch. Yes, because we have a lot of scenarios we designed, and so tomorrow we are mainly gonna look at the results. So for today, we are mimicking the winner scenario of the road in China's north, and for tomorrow, we are basically looking at whether some of the applications of the autonomous driving cars are applicable and whether they can return their intelligence for a long duration. So Professor Wang, tell me something about the overall landscape of China's auto driving. So auto driving in China, we had the first autonomous driving car in 1993, and that was a product by First Auto Works, which is a company based in Changchun. Over the years, we have dramatically improved the level of intelligence of the vehicles. And we have a lot of autonomous driving cars, but in general, they are lagging behind in terms of response and effectiveness. So we had experienced a period of a very slow development, and then after entering the new century, driven by a lot of the national natural science foundations and some of the national policies, and then in between 2009 and 2013, there is another low curve, but after 2013, there is this discussion on 4G and 5G, so that is why there is a boom in autonomous driving. So I believe that after 2015, we have basically traveled on a fast track, and we have produced a huge number of very strong enterprises. If you look at the traditional vehicles, prior to 2016, we had a lot of cars that have participated in competitions from Beijing to Chongqing. But right now, almost all the automakers, they have autonomous driving vehicles. If you look at the startups, there are a huge number of them on Chinese markets. And if you look abroad, we have Tesla, we have Toyota and Honda. They all have some wonderful products and some pilot programs. But in China, we are right now at a stage of explosive growth for autonomous driving. So we have top-level designs, and we are running a lot of pilot programs, and we have a national-level platform, and there are more than 100 enterprises that are operating on this platform, doing pilot programs. So no matter it is the automaker, the regulator, or the enterprise, they are all very much engaged. So this is very good in momentum, but we have to maintain this momentum going forward. So Professor Wang, we have a lot of video clips on the internet. Our viewers, they believe that autonomous driving is amazing, but still some of them believe that this is far in a distant future. So when do you anticipate that this will become a reality of people's life? For auto driving, let me talk about two aspects. The first is the process of going smart. So we have a lot of mature applications, for example, ADAS and EB, and we have a lot of onboard systems and a lot of the autonomous driving functions that are already well applied in some of the conventional vehicles. For example, lane retaining and auto recognition of lanes. And a lot of the people, they may believe that this is still a distant reality in the future. Well, you are partially right because we will have to overcome a lot of scenarios and a lot of the limitations in terms of regulation. And we also have a lot of very mature applications. If you go to the ports, there are a lot of autonomous driving vehicles, the transporting goods and commodities and containers, and also in some of the coal mines, we have a lot of autonomous driving trucks. And if you categorize them into A, B, and C, for A category, we are still exploring, and for B category, there are some mature applications, and for C category of vehicles, we are right now having a transition. For example, bulldozers and diggers, a lot of them have been made autonomous. So that is why they can now operate with better efficiency. And we also have a lot of off-road vehicles, and for example, semi-trailers and trucks. We have a lot of applications of those in ports, and this can reduce the human cost and labor cost of our business. For category A of the vehicles, we are making a lot of very meaningful explorations, and they are gradually applied in our reality, and they bring us a lot of joy. And we can have a lot of popular science program so that the public can be educated. In the next 5 to 10 years, I believe there will be major breakthroughs in this aspect. So our competition is going to start. So from the footage, you can see that there are no drivers in the vehicle. Yes, this is very important, and but we have a safety personnel that is sitting in a car, and if there are some potential danger to pedestrians on the street, human beings must intervene. So now let's take a look at this car. So you can see the referee is checking and walking around the vehicle to check its conditions. You can see the staff waving the flag, and you can see that the car is running. So there are no drivers, and the car automatically recognizes that signal. And so actually, sitting on a car, we have two referees that are sitting at the back row, and they are evaluating the performance of the vehicle. So you can see this is self-driving. And so what kind of technology you use to hit the accelerator? So everything is autonomous, and we write a code so that the car is able to recognize the signals, meaning the intelligence system is able to take over when you give it a signal, and once you hand it over to the autonomous driving system, it will pick up the task and work to the very end. Alright, you can see it has passed a traffic light. Yes, it stopped to recognize the traffic light, and if it is a red light, it has to stop. And if it is green light, it can go. And if you misjudge the traffic light, you miss the whole thing, and you can have 100 scores taken off from the sheet. And now let's take a look at the second scenario. So Professor Wang, we can tell that the car is dynamically adjusting its speed, but this is quite relevant to the road conditions. And you can see right now in front of the car there is a bulldozer that is operating with the snow, so it has to slowly follow the bulldozer. So you can see that the car is making a lot of decisions, and it wants to change the lane and pass the bulldozer, but then it changed its decision. So in your understanding, this car is not very intuitive, and it's not making very smooth decisions. Yes, it's not quite like a human being, and it's making a lot of decisions, and it's changing them very frequently. So it's not very steady. So right now you can see that it has passed the bulldozer, and it's continuing with the operation. So which scenario, which challenge do you think is the most difficult? We just passed one challenge that is very difficult, and the car has to make a decision whether to follow the bulldozer or to surpass the bulldozer. The second block contains two piles of snows. It has to travel a S-shaped lane. In the duration of that process, it may drive on road that is covered by snow. And right now you can see that there are two more blocks, and there are fake pedestrians that we have designed, and you have to guarantee that you do not damage or hurt those pedestrians on the street. And once you do, you will have a result of 0. And right now the car is traveling on snow-covered road, and you have to make sure that you are running in between the lanes. You cannot go out of the lane and and eventually you will have to reach your destination. So all right, I think the car has traveled already, finished the majority of this challenge. So what is this? So this is running in a tunnel, and when you run in a tunnel, you have to automatically turn on the lights. When you do that, you will have to identify the ambient light condition and make the decision to whether turn on or turn off the lights. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, you are watching the 2021 China Changchun International Autonomous Driving Challenge on the ice and snow. You can see that the red colored car is doing the challenge, and the car that is following accommodates referees, and we have referees sitting in the car following behind, who will score the performance of the red car. And we have in today's competition 13 contestants, 13 autonomous driving cars, and a score will give them the referees will give them a score, and the judges, they will tell how well the car is performing. And you can see that in the red car, no one is doing any human intervention, and you can see that this is quite different from remote controlled cars. Now we're not using a remote control. The car is totally driving with its own autonomous driving system, and it's recognized pedestrians and operational vehicles, and it can also travel on road that is covered by the snow. And you can see that when it is snowing, it can automatically activate its blades. So we are looking at whether the car is able to activate certain functions under a certain scenario, and if not, it shows that the car is not quite autonomous. And I can tell that when it started to snow, the car is running at a corner, at a turn. So it's quite difficult, and the car has to make the turn and also has to activate the blade. So it's quite challenging. So what is this block? So this is a road that has a bump. So bear in mind that the bump is covered by snow, and you can see that the car travels very fast because there is a lot of challenge at the front part of the bump, because when you are traveling to the higher ground and the visual is not very good, and so this car did perfect with that bump. So this is the 2.3-kilometer challenge. I think the car is reaching its destination. And yes, at the destination we have one very difficult challenge, and it has to park itself well within the parameter of 1 or 2 meters. And so this is very challenging. So this is the second contestant. So do we judge the time of this competition? Yes, because for autonomous driving, it's quite difficult to measure the timing, and the car hasn't. The car has to make sure that it does not exceed the time limit of 20 minutes. If you exceed 20 minutes, then you're gonna have a score of 0. So this is one very important parameter of the scoring, and but it's not very. It doesn't carry that much weight, because this is autonomous driving, and we do not require the car to be very fast. What we care the most is safety. So you can see that this white car, this white SUV, is now stopping in front of the traffic light. So
其实它是一体化设计的，就是完全不是乘用车，它就是一个熟的外观。
这个是 SUV，
对，
这个是 SUV 车型。
对，熟的外观以外，里边是完全不住人的，也没有沙发，也没有方向盘啊。
它上面顶着那个帽子是什么？
它上面那个是它的这个摄像头、雷达和传感器啊。传感器呢，主要是集中在车的这个前端，那么头上顶的那个呢，多数都是这个雷达啊。就是说雷达的有一个好处，就是我不受光线的影响，我直接通过扫描，然后来实现障碍。你看我们下面这个积雪，这2个积雪的时候，它都直接就平顺通过了。这个车的这个速度非常快。
system. So you can see that this white SUV is traveling very fast, and so far so good. So this is the white SUV traveling at the second block, and we have a bulldozer that is operating with the snow. And let's see whether the white SUV can accomplish this task. You can see this is a very big challenge for the car. And this white autonomous driving car is making its decisions, and following behind this white car is a black car which accommodates 2 judges. The 2 judges are observing the performance of the white car, and they are giving a score to that vehicle. And you can see that this is totally autonomous driving, and you can see that this car is making a very steady decision, and it's not hesitating too much. It's quite different from the first car that we just saw. So what is the most successful autonomous driving? You can, if you put a passenger on the car, you blind his eyes. If we won't be able to tell whether it is driven by a human driver or by the robot, then it shows that the car is doing perfectly well. Yes, this is a Turing test.
自动化功能和这个智能化功能，那基础功能就是你的硬件要达标，自动化功能你要有足够的行动力去完
this is the Turing test that we use frequently.
穿黑色衣服、蓝色牛仔裤的是个假人，大家可以看一下啊。大家他用一个那个。
对。
然后他走的现在有一个弯道，这个弯道
过了弯道以后是要达到一个这个积雪路面行驶。
积雪路面行驶。
就是我们路面上的这个交通线是被线给覆盖掉的，这样的话，你的传感器和你的这个摄像头是看不到我这个线的交通线的。那你看不到，但是你还得遵守交通规则啊，这就比较考验车辆的地方。
王老师，我们现在看到的这个方向盘在自动的转向，是吧？
对。
如果说我们的智能车发展到未来，是不是方向盘就取消了？
我们其实第二辆车的时候就是没有方向盘的啊，它整个就是
有这个车现在
一体化。对，现在的这个其实像昨天我们去看到的劲越的这个无人驾驶小巴，基本上所有都是没有方向盘的。
一会儿我们会看到这样的车吗？
刚才第二号车。
Later you will also see cars, minibars without the driving wheel, and
好，现在到了一
the
个
next
另一个
contestant
转弯
is
路段。
such a car.
对，老远一
So
看
now you
就
can
是
see
人驾
that
驶。
it's making
其实
a
第一辆白色
turn,
的车是无人驾驶
and
状
from a
态。
distance you won't tell this is driven
这
by
个镜头
robots.
非常到位，我们都看不到人啊。
这个镜头就更直观
From
了。
here you can see
放在
that
车
this
里的
is
一个
just perfect, and this is a camera
这
that
个空
we
有没有
installed
暖气
inside the
加
car,
上
and
空调，它会随着这个气温，这个没有。
amazing. And so
这个
this
不用
is
检查的这个感知和它的这个
very autonomous, very intelligent, and in the summer it can automatically identify the temperature inside the car, and it can turn on or turn off the air conditioner. So now we are traveling at the block of the next scenario, and we have some snowing
过
weather.
这个路段以后，下一个路段就是前面有一个非常急速的这个 U 字形掉头啊。
I think it's
对
the
，U 字形掉头。
next
马上就大家可以看到
we
啊，掉
have
完
a
头之后右转
turnaround, we have a U-turn
就马上一个模拟中雪的状态。
in front of that, and so we have a snowmaker that is bringing some snow on the car, and so we are judging whether the car can pass these tasks. So now you can see the car has stopped
对，看不到路怎么走了。看，
because this will have some impact on its visual.
刚才我看到
So
哎
it
这个雨刷
stops,
器已
it
经
has
启动了
to think. Now you can see that the
然后这个思考
blade
结束，
is activated.
做出判断了已经。
So now it has made a decision.
而且这个很直啊，
The
没有出现偏差。
the wiper blade is activated, and then it's made a decision to pass that
还有更高难度的就是我们假如前面在
section. And the most challenging is that
在积雪，
when you have
它就需要，尤其是在太阳光。
another car that is traveling in front of you that is covered by snow, and then the snow is going to reflect the light of the sun, and that's very challenging. And if you are traveling behind a big bus covered by snow,
也是科技探索的一个
you may not recognize it is a big bus, and you may simply have a rear end.
非常的有意思，尤其在冬天北方的这个降雪之后的这种路况啊，因为有的车停在马路边，
And as Professor Wang has mentioned, that in China's north,
那么从后面看上去，
a lot of the cars are parking on the streets, and after a whole night of snow,
它能不能
it can be very challenging for autonomous driving vehicles. And for human beings, we can tell it's snow, whether it is snow or cars covered by snow. But for autonomous driving vehicles, it's a huge challenge, in particular when you have strong sunshine. The snow may reflect the sunshine and pose a lot of challenge for autonomous driving cars. So now we are reaching the destination. We can see whether the car is able to.
车标与它不太一样啊。
All right, we are already switched to the next car.
又到了这个路段，这个辆
All
车
right, this is the first block, and this is another SUV, I guess.
是 平时 EV 的那个改装的吧？
I think this is a product of FAW First Auto Works. I believe there's a lot to see in this competition because we have a lot of very excellent contestants, and this is also a product of First Auto Works.
到终点了，就像您刚才说的，看到终点他停车的表现。
And you mentioned that at the destination we have to look at whether the car is parking very well. This is the second contestant, the white SUV. As you can see, it's parking perfectly well, and it's within 1 meter parameter of the required distance, and this is a lot better than a human driver. So when autonomous driving reaches certain standards, it can outperform a lot of the human drivers. All right, this is the second car at the second block. So it has encountered a bulldozer that is operating with the snow. Well, the car in the front seems like another auto-driving vehicle. So this is perfect. And yesterday at the competition, we have a tractor, and that is very challenging. And it's a very special scene. Imagine the car has traveled into a construction site. And there are a lot of dangers and potential risks. You have to make a lot of judgments, and you can see that this car is very intuitive, very flexible, and flexibility is just one very important standard in the assessment. We will look at whether the car can make flexible decisions, and we don't like cars that make sudden decisions. For example, make a sudden turn or suddenly accelerates. So flexibility and smoothness, and this is very important. And if you are driving a car, and if you suddenly brake or make a turn, you're gonna bring a lot of discomfort to your passengers. So the same goes to robots. And if you are making a lot of sudden turns, it shows that you're not that experienced. All right, we can see that this white-collar vehicle is autonomous driving, and the car that is following this white-collar car is the black one that is accommodating the judges. And this is something unimaginable 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you could never imagine this could become the reality today. And 10 years ago, there were a lot of doubts, but actually there were also autonomous driving 10 years ago, but we have a lot of gaps. You cannot have a technology that can connect all the dots and put them in one vehicle, but right now we see a lot of tests of autonomous driving. So with the development of autonomous driving in recent years, the general public believes that this is soon going to become reality. Yes, because there are a lot of such tests, and after the cars reach their destination, a lot of the ordinary people just come up and take a look at the car, and we have a lot of experienced parks, and the general public is able to experience some of the autonomous driving, and they give very positive feedback to that. So this is the car traveling in a tunnel, and this is a very extreme test. This is a competition in Changchun, but let me ask you, Professor Wang, are there other competitions of autonomous driving in China? Yes, there are a lot of such competitions. Let me tell you, we have the DAPA test in the US, and it has gathered a lot of autonomous driving startups, for example, Google. In the United States, DAPA has gathered a huge number of very excellent tech companies. In China, Changchun was one of the first to put up such a competition. It has gathered a lot of universities, and in 2006, Shanghai built the first demonstration zone for autonomous driving. So our center helped present a competition in Shanghai. So we mainly look at how the cars perform in some very difficult, challenging conditions. In 2007, there was another competition. So I can tell you, I personally participated in the first 3 major competitions in China in this regard. And so we designed more than a dozen of conditions, but we are mainly looking at different scenarios on fast lanes. And in 2010, the China Engineering Academy became part of the game, and so we designed a lot of different tasks. So, for example, we look at how accurate the positioning system of the car is. For example, if I give you a position, it might be a flat ground, it might be also a building. So the car has to make the decision what that is. And we look at how the car performs on urban roads, how the car performs in U-turns. So this is one of the first competitions in China that is held on the ice and snow. So it's quite challenging, and if it is a human being, it's quite different if you run on common ground and on snow ground. So truly this is very innovative. This is the first time that this kind of competition is held worldwide, and that is why I believe there's a lot of highlights. This is the first time that a autonomous driving test is held on the ice and snow. We have improved the difficulty of this test, and previously we designed a lot of other scenarios. For example, cars traveling on road that is covered by snow and ice, and so this is the first time such test is organized, and we believe that we have to mimic the real situation. So you can see that this is the third car, the third contestant. It's well parked at the destination. So First Auto Works truly is one of the leaders and front runners in autonomous driving, and the First Auto Works has made a huge amount of efforts in autonomous driving. So, all right, we can see that this is the next contestant. You can see the blue flag is raised. It has a countdown of 30 seconds. When the primary judge gives the signal, the car is going to be activated. All right, we can see that it takes some time for this car. It's hesitating. Well, this car is quite different, and I think that's going to take a few points off. So this is an SUV. So Professor Wang, this is a demonstration zone of China National application for autonomous driving technology. So this is a very important site. Yes, it's very important, and this is a national level test center for autonomous driving. We are currently building a international level demonstration center. This site in Changchun is quite typical, and it can mimic the road conditions in China's north. We are testing the technology and also the actual performance of the car. Most importantly, the car can provide a very good condition and environment so that the car can very rapidly improve its skills. And it's just like human beings learning how to drive in driving schools. Inside the driving school, we have a lot of scenarios so that you, as a human being, you can learn very fast. So this demonstration park is very well designed, and you can see that we designed a lot of blocks. But tomorrow we have a competition that is off-road, so it's 13 kilometers. So tomorrow you will be able to go through lanes in countryside, in a town, and also in urban road. So it's very comprehensive. So take a look at this car, and you can see that this driving wheel is turning either to the left or to the right. So this is just mimicking a human person, and it's making a lot of decisions. It has to change the lane, but actually we can remove the driving wheel, and still it can make turns through other systems, of course. And you can see that this can vividly tell you to what direction, in what direction the turn is being made, and you can see that the decision is made. Now it's passing the bulldozer, and you can see that there's no human intervention on this car whatsoever, and it's totally relying on its own system. So, Mr. Wang, tell me, what are the design roadmap of autonomous driving vehicle? How different is it from conventional cars? For conventional vehicles, it's mainly the combustion engine and also the chassis. And Jilin University is a front runner in this aspect. We have long been regarded as the number one in suspension, in chassis, and also in the combustion engine of the vehicles. And a lot of the drivers see that we have a lot of small issues with the vehicle, and a lot of that small issues have to do with the chassis and with the suspension. For autonomous driving, the car relies not just in physical parts. We still have those physical parts. We have the suspension, we have the chassis, but most importantly, it has to have a very good sensing system. The sensing system can best support the decision-making system, and then only when a decision is made can the car execute its decision. So it can best put together all those different systems. For autonomous driving, in terms of design, it has to take into consideration how the car can listen, can hear, can see, and then what decision you need to make, and then how do you execute your decision. So that's very important. You have to put all this together. In the meantime, you need to take into consideration all the outside conditions, all the ambient environment, and you need to look at how you interact with the external environment. So when will this competition finish? And I think this is the 9th team, and we have 4 more teams coming up, and after the running of this 2.3 kilometer, we're going to spend a few minutes to give a final score. So we have a very comprehensive scoring system, and the initial scores are given by the judges. But at different checkpoints, we also have judges that give score to the performance, and you need to put all these different scores together. And for every new car, it will be given initially a white scoreboard. So all the scores are given very objectively. There's no way that one can question such scoring process. You can see that this is doing very fast, and I believe that within 10 minutes we can finish one car, and I believe that the overall competition can be finished within 40 minutes. Well, due to time constraints, we're going to finish this program. We're gonna end this program very soon, very shortly. And before this program ends, can you give a speculation which car is gonna win this competition? Well, this is very difficult, and I have a list of all those cars, but I cannot tell you which car is the best. It's still too early. And so, because you are an expert in this field, can you tell me some information? Well, in Avesta Challenge, in DAPA Challenge, and those cars are very familiar ones as contestants, and they have given us different performances. And we have Dongfeng cars, we have FAW cars, and well, I cannot tell you which car is the best. And there are uncertainties at different tests. And I just had this list of the vehicles, and this is the competition in China's north. I personally believe that FAW might be the final winner because it's a company headquartered in China's north, and we also have teams from China's south. I believe if you are from the south, you won't be able to compete those very challenging situations of snow in the north. Well, I believe they have considered that in their design, and because yesterday we had similar situations, and if you are competing as very close rivals, and there are a lot of uncertainties, so those are not ordinary teams that we have selected randomly, and those are the certain teams that have been selected after rounds and rounds of preliminary competitions. So this is the finals of the competition. So those are the 13 teams at the final competition. So it's very hard to say which one is going to win because they are all very excellent. All right, dear viewers from CGTN, due to the time constraints, we are going to end this program shortly, and thank you very much for watching, and I hope you can stay tuned with this competition. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.